Biafrans. The federal government of Nigeria may have escaped one nightmare surrounding Nnamdi Kanu's case, but it has opened another. Because the majority of concerned Nigerians following Nnamdi Kanu's case are still asking a question that the federal government cannot simply bury. Why has the Nigerian government officially withdrawn its cross-appeal seeking to elevate Nnamdi Kanu's life sentence to the mandatory death penalty? Think about that. The federal government had challenged Nnamdi Kanu's life sentence, seeking something even more severe, the death penalty. Now that cross-appeal has been withdrawn. Why? What changed? Why did Abuja step away from an attempt that could have pushed Nnamdi Kanu's punishment from life imprisonment to death? And what does this dramatic development actually mean for Nnamdi Kanu's future? Stay with me, because what happened here could be far more significant than a simple legal withdrawal. And before this video ends, you will understand why the Nnamdi Kanu case is entering another critical phase. And if you want powerful, independent analysis of Nnamdi Kanu, Biafra, and the political issues shaping Nigeria, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because we are following this story closely. Now let's be clear. The withdrawal of the cross-appeal does not mean Nnamdi Kanu has been released. It does not mean the legal battle surrounding Nnamdi Kanu is finished. And it does not mean the Nigerian government has suddenly accepted Nnamdi Kanu's political position. But it does mean something extremely important. The federal government is no longer pursuing that particular cross-appeal to replace Nnamdi Kanu's life sentence to the death penalty. And that changes the conversation, because for Nnamdi Kanu, the possibility of the ultimate punishment had been hanging over this legal battle. Now that particular push has been withdrawn. So again, why? Was it simply a legal strategy? Was Abuja responding to the realities of the case? Did the government decide that pushing for the death penalty against Nnamdi Kanu was no longer worth the legal and political consequences? Or was there another calculation behind the decision? These are questions Nigerians will be debating, but whatever the explanation, one thing is clear: the Nnamdi Kanu case has entered another major chapter. And this is where the story becomes much bigger, because while the federal government has withdrawn its push for the death penalty against Nnamdi Kanu remains behind bars. And that brings us back to the question of justice. Think about the contrast. Nigeria has faced one of the most brutal insurgencies in its history. Boko Haram and other armed groups have killed civilians. Communities have been attacked, families have been destroyed, soldiers have been killed, and thousands of Nigerians have suffered because of terrorism and violent insurgency. Yet the Nigerian state has also created programs aimed at rehabilitating and reintegrating some former insurgents who surrender. And this is where the controversy surrounding Nnamdi Kanu becomes even more explosive, because Nigerians have heard allegations that some former insurgents could eventually receive opportunities to return to society. In some cases, claims have even been made about possible recruitment into state security structures. The authorities have disputed some of those claims, but the controversy remains. And Nigerians are asking, what exactly is the standard? If rehabilitation is possible for someone who once fought the Nigerian state, why is the political struggle associated with Nnamdi Kanu treated so differently? If someone can surrender, undergo rehabilitation, and eventually be reintegrated into society, why does Nnamdi Kanu remain behind bars after years of legal battles? And before anyone misunderstands this is not an argument for terrorism. It is not an argument for Boko Haram. It is not an argument for violence. It is not an argument that people who committed atrocities should simply walk away without consequences. No, the question is much bigger. The question is whether Nigeria applies justice consistently. Because the Nnamdi Kanu case is not happening in isolation. Nnamdi Kanu has been convicted on terrorism-related charges and sentenced to life imprisonment. His supporters reject the government's characterization of his struggle and argue that Nnamdi Kanu's movement is fundamentally about Biafran self-determination. The Nigerian government maintains its own position, and the legal battle continues. But outside the courtroom, another battle is taking place, the battle over public trust. Because when Nigerians see one group being offered rehabilitation while Nnamdi Kanu remains imprisoned, they naturally begin asking questions. And those questions deserve answers. Why is dialogue so difficult? Why does the government continue to speak about one Nigeria while grievances about marginalization and political exclusion remain unresolved? Why is national unity treated as non-negotiable while the grievances behind separatist sentiment remain unresolved? And most importantly, why should Nigerians believe that justice is truly blind? This is where the Nnamdi Kanu case becomes bigger than Nnamdi Kanu himself. It becomes a test of Nigeria's justice system, a test of national unity, a test of political maturity, and a test of whether Abuja understands that you cannot permanently imprison a political question. You can imprison Nnamdi Kanu, but you cannot put handcuffs on an idea. You cannot lock an entire grievance inside a prison cell, and you cannot simply order millions of people to stop asking questions. The federal government may say the Nnamdi Kanu case is about terrorism and national security. Nnamdi Kanu's supporters may say it is about self-determination. But Nigerians are watching, Africa is watching, and the international community is watching. Because the question is no longer simply, what will happen to Nnamdi Kanu? The bigger question is, what kind of country does Nigeria want to become? A country where every political disagreement is treated as a security threat, or a country confident enough to confront political grievances through justice, dialogue, and constitutional means? And this is exactly why the government's handling of Nnamdi Kanu case continues to generate anger. Because the longer Nnamdi Kanu remains imprisoned, the more people will ask whether Nigeria has two different standards. One for people who violently challenge the state, and another for people who politically challenge the structure of the state. If Nigeria believes these cases are fundamentally different, then explain it to Nigerians. If these cases are fundamentally different, then show Nigerians the difference. If the law is the justification, then let the law speak louder than politics. Because Nigerians are tired of being told simply to trust the system. They want to see the system work. And to those who say, forget Nnamdi Kanu, he should simply remain in prison, the question remains, for how long? 5 years? 10 years? 20 years? And if the political grievance remains alive, exactly what has been solved? That is the question nobody can permanently escape. Biafrans are watching, Nigerians are watching, and everyone watching the Nnamdi Kanu case is waiting to see what comes next. Because this is no longer just about one man sitting behind bars. It is about justice. It is about consistency. It is about national unity. It is about political freedom. And it is about whether Nigeria can resolve its deepest political disagreements without allowing them to become permanent wounds. Because if Nigeria truly believes in one nation, then justice must not belong to one region. It must not belong to one political class. It must not belong to one ethnic group. And it must not change depending on who is standing before the court. One law, one standard, one justice. That is the demand. Not violence, not terrorism, not revenge, just justice. And until Nigerians believe that justice is being applied consistently, the questions surrounding Nnamdi Kanu will not disappear. They will continue, they will grow, and they will become even harder for Abuja to ignore. You can imprison Nnamdi Kanu, but you cannot prison a question, and you cannot silence a political grievance simply by locking a man behind bars. So now I want to hear from you. Was withdrawing the death penalty cross-appeals simply a legal strategy, or does it signal that Abuja recognized the consequences of pushing the Nnamdi Kanu case even further? Drop your opinion in the comments. And if you want powerful, independent analysis on Nnamdi Kanu, Biafra, Nigerian politics, and the issues shaping Nigeria's future, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Because the Nnamdi Kanu story is not over. The question remains.